First item on the agenda are the minutes. Are there any corrections or amendments to the minutes?
I saw one little thing, I don't know if Carver saw it, but it says Carver's. There's now multiple here.
What page is that on?
I can't remember, I'm
We'll
sorry.
find it.
Just a little typo. I do have a question or two, just as follow-up. The tax rate,
Yes.
did we ever get confirmation, is it?
The final tax rate is 90 cents with a 90001. There's a weird one on the end, so it's carried out 4 digits. So that's the certified tax.
Okay.
Last month I told you it was right at 90
90
cents.
cents, yeah.
So it's 0.9001.
0.0001.
That's the first time we ever had a tax rate before decimal.
Yeah.
I've always tried to stay away from that, but since we had to set it at the certified rate,
Right.
early on, you know, I don't have a choice now.
Okay. Well, that was just something I knew was iffy.
Yeah.
So just making sure. And everybody, 3.5% cost of living
Yes.
went through, and it'll be on this month's pay.
It was on the check that just,
It's coming out tomorrow.
it's coming out tomorrow.
Yeah, good job. And I just wanted to ask for an update on CDLs. Does everybody either have theirs or in training?
The people we have that are required right now do have theirs.
Okay.
They did get the extra
bump?
bump that y'all gave, $1 an hour.
Okay.
And we are in the process, we met with a person, Jeff Harden, actually,
Yeah.
that runs drivetrain. Actually, he's given us an option that we're investigating, that I was doing the research, maybe do a lot of the training in-house, and then help him test our folks
Yes.
to make that process faster and
Great.
cheaper. So we are working with that process, and when we get it worked out, then we'll be looking at who else we need in the departments to get their CDLs.
Good, good. Well, that's a good thing. Almost everybody needs one. And I just wanted to ask you a question. Now, you got your truck, right? Your trash truck, garbage truck.
Yes, last Friday.
Okay, and you got to outfit it, I guess, and get stickers and stuff on
We
it.
can take care of all
Okay,
that. Yes, ma'am.
okay, you're happy.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. What about you, Chief?
Our truck, it's going.
It's what?
It's on the street, it's working good. We got 2 cars waiting for delivery on us, so this way.
Okay.
He acts like he's got so much stuff to go over it, as soon as they get it, they're ours.
So we went in, got them, we're happy, and we won't be charged in July.
Right.
George?
Make a motion.
It's
Oh,
July.
they did not waste any time, did they?
Motion for the minutes to be approved is written.
Have a motion, minutes to be approved as written. Do you want to make that correction?
With that.
Yeah.
And do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed signify by no. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda are accounts. There's no vote required. If anybody has any questions, please give us the page number and line item.
Page B1, line 40. The payment for construction, is that a full payment?
Yes, that is the complete payment
Okay.
that we did this spring.
And line 28 is where we finally paid for that Dodge truck, correct?
Yes. Yeah, that house truck's been ordered for a year plus.
Yeah.
We finally got it in and got it paid for.
We should have got discount.
So that means it hit in last year?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was,
Yeah. Since it did in last year's budget,
okay.
it was paid before June 3rd.
107 on B3,
Yeah.
the multi-mode project with TLM, is that just like a monthly stipend or?
As they work on the process of submitting plans, et cetera.
That's in bills, period.
That's the bills that are coming in. We did have a meeting by Zoom today with the engineers, 2 of them, and me, the mayor, and Greg. and they have got approval of the right of way. You know, there was no right of way involved, we had to go through that process, so now we're able to, they're working on the final plans to submit. They're hoping to have those approved by the end of August. Then at that point, he says we should be ready to go to bid. But that's where we are on that project now. It's been going about 2.5 years now.
At least.
Yeah,
Yes.
so hopefully we will go to bid in September, we hope.
Are we gonna augment this whole plan any? I mean, like you said, 2.5 years ago, this was the plan, things changed.
Or the original estimates had some lighting in there. Actually, it was more like decorative lighting, not just downtown. Early on in the project, due to cost concerns, we cut that out of the project. And so we should be well within budget, not the great. We hope, but, you know, prices going the way they are right now. Most of this, you know, it's just concrete and sidewalks, and of course, the lighting, the actual crosswalk and all related stuff there.
Still no, I guess, guesstimation.
No, not at this point. Prices are changing so quickly, even the engineers have no idea.
We understand.
Do you have any other questions on any other items on the? Okay. Next item is item C, delegations. Carl Smith will talk to us.
I want to thank all of you for allowing me a few minutes to share something that impacts our community. It may not be something that the city is responsible for, but as a result of the activity, it impacts families here in Henderson as well as our community. We opened the daycare center 6 months ago. Last year, we tried to get after-school transportation, was never able to successfully pull it off. For various reasons, CDL drivers, what have you. Unfortunately, we're starting to face the same situation again. No drivers, no transportation for our center. We have families, I guarantee you, that live right here in town, ask this afternoon, are we going to be able to provide transportation for those children? I, as an institution, cannot do it. It's got to be somebody other than our operation. We're serving over 85 families now, and we've got up to 100 plus students, children, and it's growing every day. Our personnel now is 20, going up probably in the next couple of days, 1 or 2 people. So we're growing. It's a thriving business. But we're missing out on the parents that are working and need child care after school until they can get home to pick them up. And I guarantee you, we're getting calls every day saying, can we have transportation? And I have no idea how many we might end up, 20, 30, or whatever. But I just wanted to bring it to the attention of everyone. It's an issue that needs to be solved. These are working families. They need, the option is to take the kids home, drop them off, no parents there, unsupervised. And so we're trying to provide that service to care for them until the parents can get home. So anything that the city and the council can do to facilitate this, I know it's more of a county kind of thing, but it affects all of us. Parents, working parents that live here, pay taxes, and so I'm fighting for the kids and the parents. I'm not interested in money, it's the kids and the parents, it's what it's all about. So I'm asking if anything you can help us do to bring this about, a bus, within an hour, and get all those kids out there that need to be out. I was going to buy a bus, but they said, no, you got to buy a big bus. We're not allowed to have a 15-passenger vehicle. They don't want one is transporting kids, it's somebody else's responsibility. So, I just wanted to share that with you. If you have questions, I'm just fighting for the kids and the families that are asking us. If there's anything we can do. These are working families that pay taxes and live here in this community. And I just feel like we're dropping the ball.
Question, if they designated Keystone Academy as the drop-off spot in the afternoon, could they not have to bus them there instead of to an empty house? How's that work? I don't know personally.
It's my understanding that's the procedure, and that's what the parents are doing. But they're saying we don't have available space on the bus.
Are there buses, there's buses passing your,
Two of them. What if the community out there increased in population, what would they do for those kids?
yeah,
In other words, if you've got buses full now, you might have to run another bus out there.
correct.
So it's a challenge I've never run into in my life. It's frustrating because 99% of our families are working families and bringing money back to this community. And we're playing a part in that, helping them to be successful.
Sure. What's your projected after school
Number-wise,
number? Well, you don't know really
We don't
until
know.
it happens, but generally,
it could be 20, 30, or more individuals. Easily.
yeah.
Any other questions about that?
Hey, Carlos, we've called, we called state representatives, we called our state senator, trying to figure out what this is. And I thought when I was kind of hoping when the counties and the school system decided to go with private system, private bus services, they would have that, they would have enough to do that. But that was the big deal with this. They were going to have the CDL drivers. And what you told me today, that's not going too well.
No, my daughter has been working on this, and she and I personally went to the bus garage today and talked to the person out there. Well, the person that we got this contract, we don't know what state they live in, but they definitely don't live here in Henderson. And they had no clue about dropping kids off and that kind of thing when we talked to them today.
I think that you were asking to speak to the board. Please come up. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, Chair. I was waiting for you to finish. Teach you, sir. My name is Cheryl Grant. I live at 334 Crook Avenue, corner of Crook and Third. That's where I live. 3 of the 5 years I lived here. And the 3 of the 5 years, we've had no street sweepers. I come from a big city where they clean the streets every month. Yeah, they haven't been cleaned. So I'm out there in the heat doing this, and I'm over 70 years old. So I'm cleaning Crook, I'm cleaning Third now. And I go further than my house when I do this. So I mentioned to Mr. King, or should I bear King? Did I do that incorrect, sir? I don't know. About trash truck. We are not trash truck, but I mean street sweeper. And we have an overage that I know of about $121,000 show. And he said, well, to get a street sweeper costs $200,000. So I, at that point, thought, maybe I'll look into this a little bit further. Okay, so here's what I've got. I've got 3 different street sweepers here. They're all under $200,000. Every one of them. I got one that's 80. So you can take a look at those pictures. They come from different facilities. They're in Tennessee, one's in Memphis, one's in Covington. So he was saying that there's nothing in the state? Yes, there is. So I've done a lot of work on that.
I don't remember I told you there's nothing to say.
You said there was nothing in the state for that, for under
I think
200,000.
under our contract, we purchased from a new contract, I don't know if those are new, used, or what.
They're used.
Used, that's what I'm saying, we purchased some, we've got a used one, and that's been the issue with the used one.
Right.
It's staying broke down more than it stays working.
Right.
And that's the issue, and I advise you, when I was here, I said, if you come to city council and ask them, they can look at it.
Right.
It's up to them, they don't
But
mind
you
you
make
sweeping.
a decision on what you want to do. All I'm trying to show you is that you can't get one furniture in the house. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. I mean, I just gave you samples. I spent about 3 hours on the internet looking at this stuff. And I just pulled these up. Now, I don't know what you need exactly. I had a gentleman that told me, I kind of looked for that specific type. I couldn't find that type, but I found other things. And like I said, I don't know what's what. I just know that they have some for sale. They have some used ones. They have ones that are fairly new. I mean, they've got one that's like 2016, so that's not real old. And these are all not far away, is what I'm saying. They're not like in Knoxville, that type of thing. Or in Washington State. I found a lot of Washington State, by the way. So that's the reason why I mentioned this to you, because I'm out there doing this at least once a week in my yard, and nobody else is. And I even go around the blocks and pick up trash for everybody, because nobody else picks up their trash either. So I'm out there picking up your trash and you're sitting on top of this. But I just thought it'd be nice if we could have a street sweeper that could clean the streets, because right now they've got weeds all over the place. I get them magnolia leaves everywhere, so that's why I'm out there every week doing it. And of course, that's what I'm doing, and cleaning up everything else that needs to be done there. But it would be nice to have one, and have them to use it at least once a month, and clean the streets. So and plus under also with underneath with the water goes, that's filthy dirty right underneath by my house. And I've been taking a broom under there trying to clean it out, because nobody will go there and clean it. I mean, nobody's got blood this way. I should say nobody will go there. I haven't seen anybody there the past year. Somebody came last year after a complaint and they cleaned it out. They haven't done it since. So it's just a thought. I'm just making a suggestion to you, sir, because you said you couldn't find anything, and I'm trying to help you. So that's what I'm trying to show you. There is a way that you can get it for under 200,000. There you go. That's my thought. Thank you kindly for your time.
Carter, what is the status of our sweet sweep?
We do have
I got
no
dogs.
issue with it. If we get it fixed, and we should be able to start that using.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Next item on the agenda is consider the funding for Dixie Youth Association. As we went through our budget this year, the ARPA budget and everything else, with Ian, we had about a little, about 100,000. And during that budget time, we talked about what we were looking at doing, and I think the consensus of the board at the time was talking about Dixie Youth. And I think we decided tonight that we wanted to do the budget first. We wanted to get the budget out of the way. So the budget's out of the way. I think the city council has wanted to talk about it. So I'll turn this over to the city council now and let them discuss what on this dealing with Dixie.
We had, money was pretty close to being right about 120-something thousand, the ARPA money left. I'd like to leave a little of that as a cushion for cost overruns on some of the stuff we're looking at. But we talked in terms of about $100,000 to go to Dixie Youth, primarily for, I think, leading toward the LED lighting. I don't know how far nowadays you don't know how far the money's going to go, but I would think that we start with the LED lighting. This is me personally. We just talk in general terms, but I'd like to see doing 100,000 going toward the LED lighting, with anything that might be left over that the Dixie Youth could apply that to whatever they wanted to. But you get the full 100,000 to use. That would be my, as one board member, that's my thought on that.
I believe we're in general consensus. We've talked, as Keith said, during budget, and we've priced what we knew we had to spend, say, a garbage truck was one big item, some vehicles for our other departments. And we all kind of just kept in our mind setting aside something for Dixie Youth. We probably, I mean, that's a big bang for our buck, Dixie Youth. That serves so many children. know sometimes, and I know several of us have heard, well, we'll do 50 and you'll do 50, the county city split, but when you really look at the numbers and the census of our city, we're about a third, around a third. So I hope that the county will still consider everything that they've told you and talked to you about. But we want to do our part, which we think is certainly is our part, but it's not just getting our part, it's serving our kids. If you go by there at night, and I've been there lately, that is the most utilized place in this whole town. I couldn't imagine until I went. It's been many years since I've had a child that played, but there's a lot that goes on out there. We're really proud of how y'all are representing us. I mean, we're in state tournaments and won state tournaments. Now we're going to the World Series with how many teams? 2 teams. You think about that. And if we could, and I think there's been a lot of discussion, if we could get our ballpark as pristine as you're playing, the revenue that would bring in for other tournaments. So it's a win-win situation. Keith talked about lights, and I think lights are a priority with you all. And so that's where we want to help you. And if there's anything left over, then use it at your discretion. I think all we need is receipts. Isn't that right, Mike?
Jen was for our record. The only thing that, bring this up, the only thing that kind of concerns me, Alan Casey or Alan, one comment is we're kind of waiting to see what the county does. And the deal is, that I think, what is the main emphasis y'all have is building the building.
And bathrooms.
In the beginning, yes.
And that's my fear, the only fear is I don't want to hamstring and say, you can only spend this on lights. But it could be a situation where you have a cost overrun on that building, and you need somebody to do the cost overrun. Would that be a fair statement?
That'd be very fair.
Okay. That's kind of where I'm thinking that way, that having that flexibility in case there is a cost overrun,
I agree.
and then be able to spend that on that bill. I don't want to hamstring. I think Jim says under ARPA, I'll let you make sure I tell you.
Well, under the new rules with ARPA, because this is considered a donation, like we make donations every year, except this one's much bigger. Once we make the donation to the nonprofit, because they release the strings on up to this 10 million, of course, we don't have a 1.8 million total, we really don't have to provide receipts to them or any of that. Now, I do want some documentation to sort of show some of them show what they did spend it on,
Right.
where I can put it in the file in case the question ever comes up down the road. But we don't have to provide the federal government, U.S. Treasury, any documentation other than we made a donation to a nonprofit organization in our community like we would as a general government expenditure. And so we don't have to prove anything to them. So it does make it much easier. Originally, if we made donations to nonprofits, they were considered sub-recipients, and then they had regulations they had to follow and file certain reports and all sorts of other things. But with the change to the loss of revenue up to 10 million, that changes that whole playing field drastically.
I don't want to put any undue restrictions on PCD. I was just thinking that LED lighting in the long run will save y'all money and something that.
I think they won't, I'd be tickled to death that's what they use this $100,000 for. I think they got the money somewhere else to do the building.
Well, this year we had a lot of lighting go down. One field was 18 out of 32.
Yeah, my grandparents tell me, hey, I don't know what 18 is. It was 8. Might have been 8, not 9. And I said, yep. I said, they've got 8 lights working in this field.
But we had donations, and some members of the community helped us rent some equipment, some lifts that are pretty costly. And just the components, we probably spent somewhere to the tune of 7,500 to 8,000 just to get our lights back to home, and still we're fighting because a lot of our lighting was put in the early 80s. And not only are the lights themselves an issue, the drivers and components below them
estimated cost if you took one of the ball fields and went to LED and replaced the entire ball field? What's the cost?
Well, just in fixture costs, you're gonna be 900 per fixture, and it will vary from 20 to 34 lights a field, depending on the field. So that's not any electrical labor or any components below it that we'll have to change out. But the good thing about LED is a lot of those components that are pretty, those ballast kits are about 400. So you're eliminating that cost as well. And that's not with any poles. Now, the top of the field he's talking about that has so many out, we really need to do a full conversion, pole and all, and we could drop the whole 100 in that one field, on all honesty, if you look at the lighting and the pole cost, what we've got from a metal pole standpoint.
So we have one field that happened, I know of 2 times, it may have been 3 times. Field 5, we started tripping, the wires started going out, we get along. Luckily, field next to it, we just made it a dirt field. Got like the rest of them, I ain't just have grass and land in the middle. We just trying to get this year to a regular field. Luckily, we was able to move over there and finish the game. We had to load everybody up, move to another field to finish that game.
I mean, our lighting is pretty much at the end of its road. It's at the end of its line.
Anyone else?
I think you'll probably see a big savings in their light bill too, because we did.
Yeah, we
What
paid
we
for
did in
itself
the
in
city of
42
Taylor,
months,
so.
trying to redo the city, LED.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Jason? Entertain a motion?
I think this is the one time that everybody up here is tickled to death to get to give something that's so much needed. And it's not just me, it just does our hearts good to see your children, our children, all these children.
It's not just the city, it's the county, and
That's
the
right.
other teams coming in. It's just time to pull the trigger. I'll make the motion that we donate $100,000 to CU, let them do, how they are supposed to do as they see fit.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second, any discussion on the motion? I'd like to say one thing before we do this. One thing I'd like to say about the ARPA money we've had, the city has, with doing this, and with the park, doing the match on the park, we're spending 1/3 of our ARPA money on the park and recreation. So the money the city's got, the money the city got in ARPA, 1/3 of it is being spent on park and recreation.
Quality of life.
Can I say one
You
more?
go ahead.
Well, I mean, some people say this is a huge chunk of money to invest at the ballpark. Well, the original investment was made in the late 70s, early 80s. That's run to this time, which is 40-something years later. We have 700 kids in here, about 672 or 3 this year. Well, when you look at the years of use, that many kids over that many years is a pretty small price per child you're spending in the community.
Exactly.
Same as saying that, no other discussion. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed signify by no. Motion carries. Just, I'll let Jim get with y'all and get with Mike and in there and do that.
And we thank you, we really do, because we're at that point, we appreciate
We
it.
thank you. You're all volunteers. You're not drawing a check. And you are working hard.
Next item on the agenda is item E, consider an ordinance amending the 2022-2023 budget to correct an omission in the police department concerning the equipment purchase line item. Jim?
Let's just leave it out.
This must have been my mistake, I'll fess up. Somewhere between moving money between the police budget, back to ARP, and back to the police budget, somehow their equipment budget line item got zeroed out. They had originally asked for an additional $25,000 in equipment purchase above and beyond the funds that are in ARP for them. The cars, the drone, and the body cameras were all in ARP. So this got left out, and according to my reports, it got left out sometime in April. So it was before everybody multiple times, and nobody caught it. And the chief finally was looking at his budget after I entered the computer, and suddenly he realized he had no equipment purchase money. So he's been sweating and trying to figure out, And so the only way we can fix this, it seems ridiculous, but we have to do another ordinance to correct it, because we're changing the total amount of the police department budget and also the amount of undesignated reserves. So, that's what is in front of you. You see the changes in the total, you see the changes in the line items, and of course, this is an ordinance. Unlike, the county gets to do things, resolutions on one reading, we have to do ordinance on 2 different readings. And since, of course, if I'm not here tonight, we'll have to wait on the final reading until next month. Now, if you want to give Gary the blessing to go ahead and start spending a little bit of this money, I don't know what he needs, how fast. But he's not going to actually have an approved budget till next month.
I would like that, because we never know when something's gonna go out, a radar, a radio, we gotta get this stuff fixed or replaced.
So I felt like that would not be an issue with y'all, but
What's the pleasure, board?
Make a motion to approve the ordinance.
Have a motion to approve the ordinance on first reading. Do I have a second? Second. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Mr. Barber?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Rhodes?
Yes.
Mr. Nance?
Yes.
5 voted in favor, 1 absent.
Since we have one absent, we'll be doing the second reading the next month. Do we need a motion to allow them to use spend?
It wouldn't hurt.
I need a motion to give that authority this next month.
I make a motion to allow the chief to, at his discretion, make purchases against this budget that is not yet approved.
Assuming you're making a motion, you can't see 25,000.
Not this agenda.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed signify by no. Motion carried.
Since we don't pass the second reading on the ordinance the next month, Gary, will be nice for another month.
Yeah, it'll be nice to us for another month.
Okay.
After that, off come gloves.
Okay, consider the bid received for materials to be used by the Public Works Department until December 31st, 2022. We only did 6 months.
Yeah, this is different than our normal years. Normally we bid materials like this for the entire year, but due to the cost of fuel and everything involved, of course, asphalt cost is way up this year. I think last year, Carter, was at 93 or I think $93 a ton. As you see, our low bid this time is $156 a ton. So that's up a third higher. So we can do basically only 2/3 of the paving we wanted to do this year. But bids are the bids. They are good till the end of the year, December 31st. At that point, we'll have to rebid again. And, you know, I'm not saying prices will go down, but we knew if we asked a bidder, a contractor to bid for an entire year, there's no telling what this price would be. So then they're having to reject what's going to happen next year. Now, we don't know what's going to happen next week. So I think the report is self-explanatory. The little areas are beside the low bidders. The second page you had, we only got one quote on culverts, and we just gave you that for pricing. Michael Frank's culverts, got 4 vacated metal culverts with bands and also poly culverts, plastic poly culverts. So the pricing is there just for y'all know. If you have any questions, myself or Carter will be happy to answer for you.
Are these, just a question, the culverts, are they, is that what they used to be, or they?
I didn't check for Carter, could you tell me? We haven't been buying that many, so I couldn't tell you.
I figure they probably have,
But they're not so drastic, are they? I mean.
I don't think they're
know
drastically
they're-
higher.
Not like the asphalt was.
No. So he's reasonable, sir. Okay.
For the items on the first page, I'll make the motion that we go ahead and accept the low bids.
Have a motion to set the low bids on the Public Works material bid. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed signify by no. Motion carried. Next item on the agenda is item G. Consider a resolution to approve the application for the Public Entity Partners, our city insurance carrier, the Safety Partners grant for safety equipment to the Public Works Department. This program has a 50% local match with a maximum grant amount of $2,000. Jim.
This is a grant we apply for each year done through our insurance company. Last year we applied for bulletproof vests for the police department. This year we decided to go with safety equipment for public works and utilities. We're still working out the actual detailed items. Darrell mentioned maybe an oxygen sensor that we need going to confined spaces as a possible thing we'll apply for. We'll decide that next couple of months. Next couple of weeks, but we got to get this application in, but we do have to have a resolution authorizing us to apply. The total is $4,000 and we get $2,000 back, so 50 cents on the dollar, so.
This is stuff we would buy anyway.
Stuff we would buy anyway.
So-
Yes.
Give it back. I
I
like
like
that.
what the sensors do, we'll make it up with barricades, safety cones, et cetera. We always run through a lot of those, we all know.
Make a motion to approve the resolution.
Have a motion to approve the resolution, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second? Any discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Mr. Barber?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Rhodes?
Yes.
Mr. Manus?
Yes.
I vote in favor, one absent.
Next item is H, other business. Discuss, consider extending the expired COVID leave policy, Jim.
COVID is somewhat ramped back up, and the policy the city's had in place since COVID started back, time runs together now, it's been a while. We've provided 80 hours of additional leave to employees that need it for COVID. A lot of the employees have utilized that. There's been several employees though that haven't used any of it, and we've got a couple new ones that's come down with it that's been able to use this. 2 of these 4 employees at the bottom, we didn't give you names, of course. 2 of the 4 were newer employees that had no leave more than 1 day of sick leave, so they would have been off the payroll if it wasn't for this. So if y'all would be considered enough to go ahead and continue this for at least another 6 months for any employee that has not used the 80 hours. Now, employees that have already used the 80 hours would not qualify for any more. We got employees that used a portion of that 80 hours, so they would still qualify to use up to the 80 hours. So, but it's up to you. Y'all did extend it. I think we went to December last year, then we extended it to June again, so it's
So you're
expired June
asking
30th.
for December 31st?
I would like to at least consider that part, yes, and we'll see where we are then. That's up to y'all.
Do we need to make it hit on a board day so we can extend it, so have a gap
You could.
pop up?
You could.
We do December
We
31st.
approved it December 4th.
Yeah, you could do it December 31st and just bring the extension to December, we decided.
Let's do that.
Let's do it that way.
Yeah.
Or rather hit a certain day.
You need a motion, please?
Yes, I do.
I make a motion that we extend the COVID leave for, those who have remaining COVID, or excuse me, remaining COVID days.
Yes.
Or those new hires who have previously not been here to participate up to December 31st, 2022, where we will review it yet again in our December meeting.
We have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, signify by no. Motion carries. Jim, I think you had something else.
Yeah, I got a couple things. One thing Don had already mentioned, we were able to find a garbage truck on Sourcewell Cooperative Purchase Agreement. We called the company we bought the last one from, and they had chassis and packers on the yard, which was
What?
I got the specs, I said, I need the same spec we got last time, Carter checked it over, we called them, they said, we got one on the yard, we should have it to you by the end of July. Well, surprise, surprise, they delivered it last Friday. So we got a brand new garbage truck in like 2.5 weeks.
That does
So,
start out.
yeah, and they said, if when they didn't have the chassis on the yard, it may have been 1.5 years to get the garbage truck. So, the price was up. The last one, I think we paid $155,000 for. This one was $175,800 and some odd dollars. So it was $800 and some odd dollars above the ARP budget we had, so
They're
they're taking.
suggesting taking that out of the chief.
Chiefs.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, I told Tim and Gary, I sent the mayor down there and told them that they want to cut their budget for their cars by that $827.
$800.
We can drive the garbage truck at night like they used to years ago.
You know, the public works out during the daytime, the police department drove the truck at night.
Okay.
That's a little conspicuous.
So they're in the process of getting it ready to go on the street, because we take a few modifications and get our labels on it, and get everything ready, and it should be on the road before too long. The next thing, 911 has contacted me, they were getting ready to do their deed on the property next to the fire station. Remember about a year ago, we gave them a year to do it, and that's up in August, so they're sort of trying to get it done, but then I told them it wasn't a big deal. But anyway, they're in the process of doing that, they gave it to Jay Johnson down here to look it over, and they gave him a copy of our minutes. And he didn't like the wording in our minutes, because it was a little unclear what happens if they didn't exercise the option. Because one of the comments here says, if there were problems with the lot, then they would give it back to the city. That was never the intent, was to give it back to the city. They were supposed to offer it back to the city for the same price.
Right.
So he was wanting basically y'all to make a motion to clarify that basically the city has a first right of refusal to repurchase that lot for the $15,000 per cell phone if they do not use it for 911 communication center. So I basically need a motion to clarify that. We're selling the lot, $15,000 like we agreed. We gave them up to a year to close on it. And basically all this says, if they don't use it for the 911 center, we'll have the option to buy it back.
Does he want us to put any kind of time frame in there?
That's up to y'all. And, you know, 911's like everybody else, they're worried about the cost of construction, cost of materials,
Yeah.
and, so they're trying their best to try to figure out when's the best. Tim, you may give us an update.
Yeah, I give a take on that. This is not being paid by any county money or any ARPA money. This is all from money generated through the fee on your cell phone bills and your monthly bills. That's what we pay for this building. It's took us a long time to get our funding approved. Nothing that we've done. It's just because we're going through USDA. We met with them. We have been guaranteed a loan at 2.5%. We have 5 years to utilize that money. So the 911 board, what we have done is we have met, we've decided, go ahead and write a check to the city for the block. But we're going to slow down. We've got all of our architects done. We've got everything done. We are not going to go to bid until the city, because we're competing with Blue Oval, we're competing with colleges. We are slow rolling now. We may not do anything for a couple of years. What the board has voted to do is they would look at projected cost every 6 months and then decide when we want to go to bid. I feel confident the new 911 center will be built. It just may not be built in here. We think it is the most conservative route, I'm very conservative, is to set back and just a little bit and try to wait till the prices stabilize somewhat, then we'll go to the city.
So you need a motion from us that simply says that we have the first right of refusal in the event at any time the 911 center.
Well, he said 5 years, let's just say 5 years.
Okay. But something could happen that we have to do this.
Now, it is a first right of refusal, so they come
But we
back.
first right of refusal.
So, yeah, if they come back and say, we're gonna sell this back to you, the city says at that time, whoever's here, we don't want it back. You can sell it, you can do whatever you want,
Sell it.
but that would be that would be the option of the city at that point.
Well,
Yeah,
I make a
we all
motion
know,
that we
when we
clarify.
approved all this, we knew this was all gonna happen, and, but he had a little issue with that wording. We want to make sure that they didn't, we weren't expecting them to give it back to us, we're not.
No.
It was to transfer it back to us for the same price as the intent.
They have a motion.
To clarify with, we, the city of Henderson, has the first right of refusal in the event they don't move forward with their plans and want to sell the land back. The end.
5 years.
Yeah.
At the price we sold it to them for.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was 15,
Yeah,
right?
$50,000.
Have a
So I give them a
motion.
plan
I will second.
I have a second. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed signify by no. Jim?
One more thing. This came in late this afternoon. We are not expecting you to act on
Not
it.
to.
We're asking you not to act on it tonight. There was, contact Frank Shears about wanting to set up a food truck downtown, next to the downtown park. And, I think there's a lot of discussion and thought has to be put into this, but that's their handout we got late this afternoon, and we're not gonna be here tonight. We'll give to you to consider between now and next month. We'll put it on the agenda for next month, and then y'all can make some decisions then if you feel comfortable, and we can invite them to actually be here to answer any questions. So, that's the last thing I have.
Chief.
Just wanted to make you aware that I did go to a meeting last week. They're still moving forward to replace the Highway 100 bridge over the Fort River. They're doing final right-of-way design on that, probably still another couple of years away or 3 or so before they actually bid it, but they will be replacing that 10-inch water line in their contract with whoever finally gets the bridge contract. So that project is still slowly moving it out there. And then the other item I had was, I need to rebid the miscellaneous labor contract for the installation of gas line. Will still be, it's a per unit price for whether the line has to be poured or whether it's trenched in or how it's installed. The contract is actually a per unit price. And then we adjust the amount of gas line we're doing to make sure that we stay within the budget that we've got for gas line installation. So it still will be an actual dollar value when we get the backing back from the bidders on this project. It'll be a per unit price for the particular task that needs to be done to install a new gas line, and it'll be, for various different sizes, things like that. And then, we'll work with what we have in the budget, pipe prices, and things like that, to stay still within the budget. I just wanted to get permission to rebid this, since everything's fuel and everything's going up. We've been kind of rolling over the one that was provisioned the last time we bid to be able to automatically roll it over without any price increases. And looks like fuel and everything is coming to the point that we're gonna have to rebid.
Entertain a motion to allow to rebid.
Make the motion.
Have a motion to allow to rebid. Do I have a second? Second. All those in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, signify no. That's carried. Chief, you got anything else, or do you have anything? Chief? Carter?
I had talked to RFA, and they said it'd probably be about a month and a half, and then they would be able to do some pay.
Where we start?
We're gonna start on, Christie Loop, and then probably do, Hill Street. I don't know if they know Hill Street, just, because I know it's gonna be,
Yeah, not much this time. Okay.
that's all I think.
Well, I guess while these two guys are here, and Darrell brought the subject up, do you want to break the news to everybody how this bridge is going to affect us?
Bridge? Well, Darrell can give you a better update. The plans originally showed that they were going to be blocking off East Main Street before you get right at the end of the highway department's property. You could not get the bypass on East Main any longer. That means all the traffic from DCU, co-op, all the way back to the schools, everything would have to go out, turn around, and come back to Stewart Street and detour down Stewart Street to hit the bypass and go east or west. We all know that a lot of people use that way to get out to go east and west both, especially during school time. So it's my understanding, based on the meeting you attended, they're hoping to issue that in a sort of separate contract that will have a shorter time frame, where the East Main will not have to be blocked for as long of time, which will be much better, because that bridge construction could be a year to 18 months being completed. So hopefully, it appears they're going to try to do East Main being closed down, a shorter time frame to get in there and get that grading work they have to do to shift that lane in that direction. So that was good news that we heard. That was much better than the situation we originally saw in the plans that said pretty much it's going to be closed down the entire construction. So that's good news and bad news. So it's still gonna happen, it just hopefully won't be as long a time frame. But I could easily see it happening for 90 days or longer. Easily.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be good if it was in the summer when school wasn't set.
I think they said they might try to do that.
If they cut it across, if you're saying they're gonna cut it, where do you know the spot they're gonna?
I think the signs were basically at the lagoon room, and right there at the curb.
And what is, or what's their, are they reworking that?
They're reworking where it connects to bypass.
Putting in a new bridge, right?
Well, they're putting in a new bridge out, you know, it's a river bridge out there.
Yeah.
But they're having to realign that curve, the approach to that bridge. And if, when doing that, they're going to have to clear out that east main intersection and move it slightly to the north and relay it all three grades.
We got a prime little piece of triangle down there next to you, I don't know how.
Yeah. Who knows, they might need a little bit of it. I don't know.
They got high price.
They got high in a hurry.
They may need a little bit of it, I don't know.
Here you go, Dave.
They're gonna build a complete new bridge just north of the bridge that's there now. North?
On the north side of the road.
So
You're
they're
going
gonna
east,
go
you're
out
going
on
left
the
hand
left side. So they're gonna go the way that ain't clear.
side. Yep, and right over the water line. If you go
Right over,
Yeah,
yeah,
water
water
line.
line.
There's
That's
a
gonna
10-inch
take
water
a
line
while.
underneath the river there. and everything.
Jimmy got everything.
I think that's everything.
Dave, you got everything.
Take a year.
Ken?
I'm gonna get two ones out.
With the new garbage truck that you got, Carter, does it have a tipper on it for the smear cans? So I didn't know if that was gonna be something for residents. A lot of people have bought those large cans, I hope we got for recycling. If that was, I know we limit the use of those, and so I didn't know if that was part of that process or not.
Well, it's sort of funny you brought that up. I came across, tonight to come to this meeting, I think I counted 10 cans
Cans, big cans.
that would be legal according to our standard because of the size, that all built from the tippers.
Yeah.
So the tippers do slightly slow your process down, but cans that large, I know a lot of times the guys reach in and just grab sacks and throw out, not still get they in sell because they're so heavy. And they're bulky and, you know, and so I don't know if that's an option that the Southern Works Department may want to start considering now. We did put it on the new truck. because
I
we
thought that
knew-
was the discussion, I knew the recycling one had a tipper on
The recycling and the black one we bought last year, we put a tipper on. So now all three of our main trucks will have tippers
it.
on.
Might be worth the study just to see how much,
I think
quantity
that's
of
something we get with Carter and the guys and see what the options are there.
because that tends to be what people are buying now. They
Yep,
buy-
it is. We're either going to have to more enforce the weight specifically.
Yep.
And, you know, especially, you know, you got these people just throw loose garbage and bottom of the big cans. And a lot of times guys just have to leave. It's too heavy to manhandle up and get it pulled through.
Okay, that's all I got.
I was looking at the accounts and stuff, and something that Greg and I were talking, up at the fire station about training and stuff. Is it difficult for, the police department or the fire department to provide a list of all the classes that everybody attended for several years or something? Is that something that the training officer of the fire department could provide? Or
We have training records, we got, finally kept it full down there. We put it in a spreadsheet when they attend the class, but we're in class every week, summer, I mean, everybody constantly.
wait, I'm talking about going somewhere and taking a class.
Yes.
I was just curious, you know, how, from education standpoint, I was just interested in the training, that's all. That's the only thing I heard.
No, sir.
Unless anybody here has anything else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.